question came in on our app about what happens after death. What happens the moment we die? Where are we? Are we? What's it like? Etc., etc. I grew up without having answers to that. I was not in church. I'm a child of the Second World War. I had a lot of questions. Who's trying to kill us, Mom? Night after night with the bombs, etc. I had a lot of questions about death. What happens if a bomb hits me tonight? My 6-year-old mind asked. I had no one to answer those questions. And it wasn't until I was 18 at Cambridge that somebody answered those questions for me. Actually, it was a man called C.S. Lewis, who had just come to faith himself from atheism. And he talked about glory, heaven. He was so thoroughly converted from being an atheist to being an apologist for the Christian faith that he was on the BBC answering a country's questions. And somebody heard some of those questions and wrote them down, his answers, what about heaven, what about hell, what happens when we die, and put it in my hand in my college at Cambridge on a piece of paper. I cannot remember a face. I was standing there with my hand open, and somebody put, what is heaven, what is hell, what happens when you die? I left the lunch line, I went to my little Cambridge room, and I read questions that are now in a book called Weight of Glory by C.S. Lewis. Go on Amazon. Get it, read it, hang your heart over it. Read it twice, read it 3 times, and you'll get all the answers to the what after death questions. For me, it was very important because my grandfather died in that first term I was at Cambridge. I went home for the funeral. I went to the graveside on my own, and the headstone was there. And they were literally digging the hole and putting it all to pass after the committal of the burial. And I was alone there with the gravedigger who was digging the hole. And I was crying. And he looked at me and he said, "Little girl, look what's on the headstone." And I said, "What's on the headstone?" And he said, "I'll read it to you. Absent from the body, present with the Lord." I said, "What does it mean?" He said, "You need to ask your pastor." I said, "I don't have a pastor." And he said, "Then ask God," and went on with digging. So that's where I began my search. But that's the answer I came to at Cambridge as I became a Christian. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. As a believer, my dad died. I went to the funeral. My mum asked me to sleep with her the night before the funeral. I slept with my mom. I was reading the Amplified Bible, which is a Bible which amplifies the meaning for you. My mum said, "What are you reading?" I said, "I'm reading a Bible, Mum." "It doesn't look like a Bible." "It's a Bible." "What you reading?" I looked down and I read. My mum had just told me that Dad was going to be cremated, and she didn't understand what that meant. And I read in the Amplified Bible, "If this earthly body be destroyed as if by fire, we know we have a house in heaven, not made with hands." And she looked at me and said, "Thank you, darling," and went to sleep. Absent from the body, we put on my dad's tombstone, present with the Lord. That's what happens when we die.